The All Progressives Congress has clinched all 40 seats at the Lagos State House of Assembly at the just concluded poll. Results announced at different INEC collation centers show that the APC defeated its main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, by a landslide. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission also declared APC's candidate Babajide Sanwo-Olu as winner of the governorship poll, beating his closest rival and candidate of the PDP, Jimmy Agbaje, with a large margin. The results announced by the returning officer, Professor Ayitokpe Ogunbodede, show that Sanwo-Olu defeated Agbaje in all 20 local government areas, polling 739,444 votes against 206,141 votes scored by Agbaje, and was thereby returned elected.
4. That Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu of All Progressives Congress, APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
With no open objections, the results sheet was then signed by the 31 party agents present. A PDP agent, however, said after the exercise that the result wasn't credible, noting that party executives would meet to know the next line of action. Similarly, an election observer questioned the competence and integrity of some collation officers who were engaged by INEC.
Well, I say to an extent, INEC tried their best. But I want to say that even though they tried their best, they can do better. Because unless Nigerians, and I know we don't deceive ourselves, if we want to be sincere with ourselves, this is short of credibility. That's the fact. I didn't say that. I can't hold an opinion about the acceptance or the rejection of the result. I can't. I am an agent. I have a principal. So I will meet my principal, I will look at the details of the result before we can offer any opinion.
All these young coppers that were used, ad hoc staff, actually make the integrity test to fail with their attitude. And that is one of the things that we are putting across in our report. Another one is the selection of collation officers. Many collation officers fall short of the expectations for this election from what we have gathered.
Good afternoon and welcome to Election Watch with me, Judith, Irenoa. Winners continue to emerge from the governorship election conducted in 29 states and House of Assembly elections conducted in the 36 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Abuja. The Independent National Electoral Commission on Sunday started the announcement of the results of governorship and state House of Assembly elections held in the country on Saturday. The results released so far revealed some surprises and upset across the country. As it stands, APC has won the governorship poll in Kwara, Ogun, Lagos State, Kebbi, Gombe, Jigawa, Niger, Katsina, and Kaduna State. PDP has also won in Akwa Ibom, Enugu, Abia, Ebonyi, Delta, Cross River State, and results are still being collated in some states of the Federation. As it is now, 4 states do not have governors elect yet, as INEC declared the Guber polls inconclusive in all the 4 affected states. The margin of win has been smaller than the number of cancelled votes. They are Bauchi, Adamawa, Plateau, and Sokoto State. Thank you once again for joining us on Election Watch as we bring you updates across states as events unfold. We now move on to guest standing by at Ibadan. He is a retired police commissioner and his name is Aziz Bashiru. We'll be taking him on sundry issues which happened before, during and after the elections in Oyo State. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to Election Watch. All right, if you can hear me, Mr. Aziz Bashiru, I want to have your take on the conduct of INEC and the people during the just concluded elections in Oyo State. What is your general assessment of the election before we go into the nitty-gritty of some not so pleasant events which transpired during the elections?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on this program. As regards the question you posed, I want to tell you that generally I will say the conduct of the elections by INEC to me has been very satisfactory. They have tried their best, and you know, in such contests, there will be a winner and a loser. I want to say that, as far as I'm concerned, most of the actions taken before and during the elections were such that they are very, very commendable. That's my take.
Some cases of violence in Oyo State, especially on Saturday, which led to the killing of a member of the House of Representatives on the platform of the ADP, popularly known as Sugar. What is your take on that?
Well, on the issue of the violence that took the life of Sugar, I want to say that it's very, very unfortunate, and I commiserate with members of his family. But I want to say that it is one of those things during elections. Politicians, because of the fact that they are always something like a do or die affair, they will go to any extent because of the fact that the end justifies the means. They don't care, and that's probably that he had been known to be a politician for some time, and most of his activities before now must have been taken into account before probably his opponents went for him, and unfortunately he was assassinated. I think the police is on top of this, and they will be able to get across to the perpetrators of this crime.
When you say violence during election, which in this particular case, which led to the killing of Sugar, you're saying it's one of those things during elections, and you put the bulk of the blame at the doorstep of the politicians. What would you say about the people, the foot soldiers who are the common man on the street used to perpetrate all this violence? Would you say the people have not learned their lessons over the years?
It's unfortunate that we have not learned much as regards the issue of elections in this country. Like I said, politicians will go to any length to try to win elections. The foot soldiers you refer to, they've been recruited by these politicians. And unfortunately, even after the elections, I hope we will not have a fallout of the way they have armed many of them. When they are no more looking up to these politicians, they go into other crimes, terrorizing the populace. So politicians, we just have to accept that most politicians they have not learned lessons. And it's unfortunate that most of these foot soldiers will be used and dumped. They will never use their own children. But because of the fact that most of these boys are not engaged in any meaningful entrepreneur or whatever, they can easily be used. Somebody who has never had 5,000 in his lifetime, and you give him about 50,000 to say, go and do this, they will gladly do it. I hope in the next, in future, most of these boys will want to tell those politicians that they should bring out their own children first before they use them.
Take you on the issues of violence in some parts of Ibadan South, and also the snatching of ballot boxes by some miscreants in these areas. Would you put the bulk of the blame on the doorstep of the security agent?
Well, the security agents also, like I said earlier on, that INEC tried their best. I will still commend the security agencies. When you look at the number of violence in relation to what used to happen before, you will see that it's not as much as what we used to have before. And I hope we will learn many lessons from what has happened so far. Oyo State, you know, is one of the states that are volatile. But up till now, I will still commend the police in Oyo State for being able to do what they have done to make sure that most of these crimes are reduced to the barest minimum. Throughout the election period, I equally voted in Oyo State, and I knew what happened where I voted. Everything went peacefully. But after the elections, that's the period most of these, using advantage of the night, that's the time most of these boys go out and they perpetrate all these crimes.
About the prosecution of arrested electoral offenders, on Saturday, the police made some arrests in Oyo State, some who were arrested for ballot box snatching, inciting violence, amongst others. In your experience as a police officer who must have conducted security operations during elections, would you say the reoccurrence we have in election violence is as a result of not enough prosecution of these offenders to serve as deterrents to others who might want to foment trouble during elections?
I agree with you about prosecution of most of these election offenders. Most of them, unfortunately, when most of these offenders are arrested, they belong to some political parties. And even when the police, after they must have charged them to court, we see what usually happens is that if they belong to the party in power, most of these cases, they will enter nolle prosecuted. That is, the cases will not be allowed to go on. They will withdraw the cases from the court. And people at times don't even follow up to know what happened to some of these offenders. Police will have investigated, charged them to court, but the power of this knowledge prosecute rests with the Attorney General of the state. And that's why at times most of these cases are withdrawn without the knowledge of some of the people outside. That is it's not good enough. If they are actually prosecuted, it will have served as a sort of deterrence to most of these offenders. And I think now that the IG has already set up an investigation panel to investigate offenses against during this election period, I hope something will come out of it. And if they can get through with it, then it means a sort of deterrence will, some of them will be deterred from further committing these offenses.
All right, thank you, Aziz Bashiru, who's a retired police commissioner. Thank you very much for joining us on Election Watch. All right, you're still watching Election Watch as we bring you update of the announcement of results going on in some parts of the country. Recall that elections were conducted in 36 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory, where council polls did hold there. But it is worthy to note that elections were only conducted in 29, governorship election rather, were conducted in 29 states of the Federation. We'll be right back in a minute. Just stay with us on Election Watch. Welcome back and thank you for joining us once again on Election Watch as we bring you live updates of happenings across Nigeria. And like I said earlier, results have been declared in some states with the APC winning in Kwara, Ogun, Lagos, Kebbi, Gombe, Jigawa, Niger, Katsina and Kaduna, with the PDP clinching the governorship seats in Akwa Ibom, Enugu, Abia, Ebonyi, Delta and Cross River State. However, 4 states do not have a governor-elect yet as elections in those states have been declared inconclusive. In all the 4 affected states, the margin of win has been smaller than the number of cancelled votes. There are Bauchi, Adamawa, Plateau, and Sokoto State. And just joining me on Election Watch to take a look at the sundry issues emanating from Saturday's election is Ambrose Igboke. He's a public affairs analyst and a broadcaster. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right. We have a lot of winners, many winners emerging, and the results revealed so far has springed up some surprises and upsets. Ogun State especially, you know, there are so many intrigues played out in that particular state, and now we have a winner. And also in Kwara State, many people expected it actually, and the APC has won in Kwara State with the Senate President Bukola Saraki already who has sent out his congratulatory message to the governor-elect. What's your take on the emergence of new governors and the old governors retaining their seats in their state?
Well, that's why when you said surprises, I was looking at where the surprises came from. Because as you said, the permutations were rife when this came to be. And most of the permutations after the elections were right. The states that were given to APC, probably most of the time APC won them. Then the states that were given to PDP. The only surprise I would say is on your states. That
it's a huge surprise.
Permutation tilted towards APC, that APC will clinch it. And then the dark horse came and just took it away from there. So that is the surprise I would say. For APC in Ogun State is just that the governor himself was the one who was trying to pull out a structure and form the one for his own candidate, who APC refused to give the ticket to. And so it was like a protest for him that he wanted his own person to be there. But I remember the vice president being on ground in Ogun State and was reassuring the people that there was not going to be any sort of violence, that the security apparatus in the state had to be fully on ground, and that people should not be afraid, that there will not be violence because we anticipated violence. We assured them. And because of those assurances from the vice president, I think people trooped out en masse to vote for candidates of their choice. But the margin, as you said, was not too much. So it was really
it was keenly contested
between the PDP and the APC in that state. And for most of the governors anyway, some of them who had completed their 8-year tenure, it was goodbye. So we expected new governors anyway. We expected a new governor in Ogun State. We expected a new governor in a state like Ogun State. We expected anyway, in Kwara State, we didn't expect it. The issue was that we didn't expect any governor, but we still expected maybe the incumbent party would have done something. But when the mover, the motivator of that incumbent party lost election 2 weeks ago, we knew that it would be a Herculean task for the PDP to win that state. And basically across Southeast, it has maintained its culture with PDP, the 3 states of Enugu, Ebonyi, and Abia has always been PDP states.
All right. Thank you very much, Abruzibo. Okay, let's head on to Abuja, where the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, Rotimi Oyekomi, is standing by. Good afternoon and welcome to Election Watch. I would love to take you on a sundry of issues which are happening across the country. First is the suspension of the electoral process in Rivers State. Can you explain more to Nigerians what transpired in the state which led to the suspension of the electoral process?
Thank you for having me. You know that the Independent National Electoral Commission conducts elections, but we are supposed to conduct these elections under conducive atmosphere, where there is no violence, where there is no intimidation. Unfortunately, that was not the case in Rivers State. We were conducting the elections, we had our officers on the ground, but there were reported cases of violence and intimidation, and invasion of our collation centers, and there was threats to the lives of our staff. Even our resident electoral commissioner had to be whisked away from that area to safety, and it became impossible to continue with the process. And the law gives us that power to suspend the election under such circumstances. And that was why the Commission, having received various reports and looking at the situation on the ground, decided to suspend the election. We have constituted a fact-finding committee, which, as I speak, are heading to Rivers, if they have not lined up there, to find out what happened and report back within 48 hours. And the Commission will take action thereafter.
After the fact-finding mission to Rivers State, when is the electoral process likely to resume in Rivers?
As soon as possible, because you know, what we want to do is to conduct the election, declare results, and everybody will know who has won and who has not. But in the present circumstance, we cannot go ahead until peculiar situations are effectively addressed. Now, when the committee reports back, the commission will look at the report and then announce when the process will resume. But we know that that should be as soon as possible.
Let me take you down to Imo State, where delay in result collation was actually delayed in that particular state, which led to agitation on the part of some political parties and other stakeholders. What would you say led to the delay in the collation of results in Imo?
Again, it's interference in the process. If you check the history of the commission, in every election where there is no external interference, we conduct the election, collate the results, and announce the winner. Announce the election results. But where you have people or forces trying to interfere with the process, they distort the whole thing, and then they would not allow us to follow the constitutional trajectory that we are supposed to follow in order to make a declaration. So it was this interference, as it happened in Rivers, that also happened in Imo. But as I speak, the collation is going on, and I hope that our hope is that very soon we will have a declaration from that state.
According to the Independent National Electoral Commission, elections have been rescheduled in 3 polling units in 3 local government areas of Benue State, owing to the kidnap of ad hoc staff on the way to Manger, 2 polling units, among other issues. Can you tell us more on that, and when the rescheduled elections will likely take place in Benue?
Well, we are studying the entire situation, and I will also want to appeal to the media to focus more on those who are perpetrating this violence against our staff. We need, for instance, the members of the National Youth Service Corps and others who form the ad hoc team to conduct elections. We can't do it alone. But when you have young boys and girls, young men and women who are deployed to the field to conduct elections, and they are kidnapped and taken through the kind of horrible experience that we have been witnessing, that is not acceptable. For us, the life of each and every member of our ad hoc staff is important. And until we secure the lives, we can't even think of when to go back to conduct the election. But like I said, once we have the green light in terms of the conducive atmosphere, the Commission will announce very quickly when the elections will be conducted, and the stakeholders will be duly informed.
Tell us if this kidnapped ad hoc staff have been rescued by the Commission, and what, if not, what is the police in conjunction with the Commission doing about that?
I haven't received the latest report about that particular case. It's not only in Benue State that we had issues. We had in Katsina, but luckily in Katsina, those who were kidnapped, I understand in the last 1 hour that they have been released. Some people were also abducted in Rivers. We are still trying to find out the full details of what is going on there. So I think that as the day unfolds, we'll get more information from our resident electoral commissioner in that state, and then we can make a categorical statement. But right now, I don't have the full information about what is going on there.
Treatment of ad hoc staff as it affects their welfare and their payment, which has become a recurring issue in this electoral process. You would recall that some INEC ad hoc staff did protest in Lagos at Anifowoshe school in Ikeja, one of the registration area centers, and they complained about the non-payment of their allowances, stating that they will not go to the field if the allowances are not paid. What is INEC doing about the welfare of ad hoc staff? Well,
I think that there was some wrong impression created that we didn't pay the ad hoc staff their allowances. But the information we got was to the contrary. We are not owing the ad hoc staff. I think there was some confusion about some payment, which I don't want to go into with respect to Lagos. But from our side, I think that we paid promptly all the payments due to the ad hoc staff. We take the welfare of our youth corps members very seriously. I know that things can improve definitely as we go ahead, going forward from this election, but adequate provision was made. It may not be enough, but I think that at the state level, all our state offices, made adequate arrangements to ensure that all these corps members are taken care of. Where we have shortfall or where we don't meet up to standard, we will interrogate what happened and ensure that that doesn't happen again. But as far as payments are concerned, I can assure you that we are not owing the ad hoc staff.
Let's still talk about 4 states where the Commission has declared the elections inconclusive. That is Bauchi, Adamawa Plateau, and Sokoto State. What's the latest on those states, and when is the election likely to be concluded?
Well, the reports I have is that in 1 or 2 of those states, the number of votes, the margin of lead is far less than the number of cancelled votes. And in such a case, you cannot make a declaration. So the Commission will have to quickly go back and conduct the election to determine a winner. And that shouldn't be a long time. It's within in a couple of days or maximum a week. A decision will be taken by the Commission, and then we'll make arrangements to go back. If all the parameters as enshrined in law were met, there will have been no need to cancel to say the election is inconclusive. But unfortunately, where the margin of lead is far less than the total number of cancelled votes as it happened in 1 or 2 of the states, we cannot make a declaration.
Talking about, let's go back to the issue of results collation, various bottlenecks in the collation and announcement of results. Do you think this is about time for INEC to fully digitize voting, result dissemination, and e-voting, amongst others?
Well, the electoral process is guided by law. We cannot deploy what you refer to as electronic everything until that aspect is approved or is enshrined in the Constitution. The collation process is not problematic. It only becomes problematic when, like I said earlier, we have external influence, interference. Those who try to disrupt our activities, where they kidnap our officials and force them at gunpoint to change figures or tell them what to do. That is very unfortunate. But what the law says is that this process now should be manual. If the Electoral Act is amended and the Constitution is amended to give room for application of technology higher than what we have, why not? INEC will comply. But whatever we are doing now is guided by the law and will continue for as long as the law subsists until the National Assembly changes the law. So I think that going forward, that is what stakeholders like the media can advocate for if they think this will help the electoral process better.
The law says e-voting. INEC has all it takes, the staff, the logistics, everything in place to go e. Is that what you're saying?
No. We have already applied technology in certain aspects of the electoral process. For instance, the continuous voter registration was done with the full application of technology. We captured the 10 fingers, the biometrics, and the register of voter is online. If you go to our website, it's right there. And it is from there that we also produce the manual register of voters. So essentially, we have started applying technology. You know, it's just this aspect of electronic voting that the law does not recognize. And we cannot go into that until the law says it should be done. And of course, if the law is amended, like I said, INEC is ready. It's like preaching to the converted.
Let me take you back to the issue of logistics, that is the delivery of election materials across the country. On Thursday, the INEC chairman did assure Nigerians that the commission is above and has improved on the issue of logistics, which I would really commend the commission from learning from the 23rd of February election. Moving on, how do you think, or what do you think are the plans INEC have as to the delivery of election materials to the various polling units without necessarily learning from the shortfall of a particular election before making gains for the next elections?
Well, let's look at the big picture. We're talking about 119,973 polling units. And let me also explain a little bit about the statistics that we are dealing with. We have over 84 million registered voters. We have 91 political parties. In the presidential election, 73 participated, and the size of the ballot paper has changed from what it was in 2015. The number of registered voters has increased, you know, from what it was in 2015. And of course, you require more in terms of logistics. The ballot papers will be more, both in shape and in quantity. And INEC depends on the transport unions, for instance. We don't have enough vehicles to deploy to take these things all over the country. So what I'm saying in essence is that we try our best to make plans, but we cannot say that the plans are perfect 100%. You could have a little delay here and there. For this election, I think that we have done quite well in terms of delivery of materials all over the country. It was not entirely perfect. In a few isolated cases, we had delays, we had some hiccups, but it is to be expected, because when you are conducting an election in a country like Nigeria, it is very, very huge. People don't often think about how huge this country is and how challenging it can really be. Look, even in the FCT, where we are now, the area council elections was part of the elections that we conducted. There are areas in the FCT where neither a vehicle or a motorcycle can go up to. Sometimes we have to employ the service of donkeys, those who have horses and donkeys, to take us up the hill to deliver election materials to those places. And these are things that people may not be aware of. So it is not every polling unit that is in the middle of Ikeja in Lagos or Enugu or Port Harcourt in Rivers. There are polling stations in this country that are in very remote areas with difficult terrains. So we will continue to do our best. We tried very hard to correct all the mistakes that we observed in the presidential, and I think there is a great improvement in this governorship and state assembly elections that we conducted.
Talk about some arrested electoral offenders. How hard is INEC willing to go against those who perpetrated violence, ballot snatching, amongst other offenses during the elections?
Well, that's a very good question. And in any society where people commit an offense and they are not punished, they will continue. And I think in terms of electoral violence, the rate of prosecution has been very, very discouraging. And that's why in every general election cycle, you have this COVID happening over and over again. And, you know, part of the recommendations before the National Assembly on the federal government was that we need a special tribunal to try electoral offenders, so that when we make a scapegoat or one or two, not just of the field soldiers, but the mother spiders, those who sponsor them, those who ask them to go and commit all these atrocities, some lessons will have been learned. But you see, INEC cannot do this alone. You know, we have to depend on the cooperation of the police, for instance, to prosecute, and of course the judiciary to also help us, you know, interpret the law and convict these offenders. But I think the synergy between INEC and these other critical stakeholders is strong, the synergy is ongoing, and I think together we will achieve progress. Don't forget, there was this election we conducted in Minjibi in Kano State some time ago, where some hoodlums were arrested for interfering in the process. They were successfully prosecuted and they were jailed, but the argument then was that, well, those that were arrested and jailed were not the godfathers, they were the field soldiers. People were then saying that the godfathers should also be picked up, and the laws are actually essential. The things are stated. What is an electoral offense is stated, the penalty for that is stated. It is the application of it that we are trying to improve on, and it will be to the joy of the Commission if such things are done and are done firmly, and people see that you know, you can't just come and disrupt election and get away with it.
What are the critical lessons INEC should take away from these elections to ensure future elections are better organized and more credible?
Well, several lessons. Incidentally, every election has its own uniqueness. There is no general election that is the same. You can group some things as the natural course of events, you know, but there are things that will come up that you may not even think about in the first place. But I think that we've had the privilege between 2015 and now to conduct a total of 195 different types of election, and we've learned lessons, and we are prepared very hard for this one, but mistakes were still made in certain areas, and we keep improving as time goes on. For instance, deployment to the polling units, opening of polls at 8 a.m. is very, very key to having a successful election. In some of the polling units, in isolated cases, we didn't open at 8 a.m. That is one lesson we are taking away, to look at what happened and why that did not happen. Because if you recall, when we had the Osun governorship election, 98% of all the polling units in Osun were opened by 8 a.m. And in this governorship election, substantial number 2 were open at 8 a.m. And then between 9 and 12 noon, you had more than 90% open. But the dream is we open and the materials are ready and our staff are ready. The smart card readers are there. They are functioning very well. The people on the queue are attended to, and all the different Nigerians, those who have special needs, like the elderly, the visibly pregnant, are attended to very promptly and quickly, and it becomes an enjoyable exercise that we will continue to have discussion and plan as we go ahead.
With me, Rotimi Oyekomi, the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu. All right, back to the studio here. We did listen to the CPS to INEC Chairman, Rotimi Oyekomi, who spoke so well of the gains, challenges, and the lessons learned by the Commission moving on. Now let's talk about the inconclusive elections in Bauchi, Adamawa, Plateau, and Sokoto State.
This INEC, when it took off some 3 years ago, when it started, there was a time its elections were so inconclusive that some people were started taunting the name that INEC means the Inconclusive Electoral Commission. But after a while, it seemed to have gotten their rhythm. But over time, for the first time, I think, the inconclusiveness of the election in these states is not INEC's lack of preparedness. It is not INEC's lack of logistic, cohesion. It is now a constitutional matter, according to what INEC has told us. So the best thing to do is now immediately set out whatever they need to do within 7 days, so that those can be wrapped up, because there's a 90-day window for all electoral matters to be taken to court, to the tribunal, to whatever the highest court it can go, so that the idea is before May 29th, before the swearing-in date, all the cases, all the litigation, all the cases in the tribunal up to the court would have been dispensed with before the, so that, because what we saw between 1999 and before 2010 was that lawyers, the politicians who had gained from the wrong process will keep, using all kinds of legal brickbats to keep on pushing cases till, in fact, a case you are fighting for which would just end by, the tenure was already ending before you can even get your judgment in court. And that's why we've got some staggered things like Aregbe-Shola, them, and P2B and the rest. So with this new law, which says, and let's try to clear it 90 days before, so a 90-day window. So we hope that INEC, latest by Saturday, should do rerun in those areas and see how they can conclude the election, so that we don't remain inconclusive for a very long time. And then reacting to what the CPS said, the issue of payment of ad hoc staff. In another platform 3 days ago, I did say that it may be that the INEC hierarchy from Abuja has actually dispensed the money to the Residential Electoral Commission. Now, it's proving it right, because if people have not been paid, why is the complaint not across board?
Across board.
So that means those states that are not being paid, the Resident Electoral Commissioner should be
held responsible.
And should be prosecuted by EFCC, should be investigated. What did he do with the money? Or she? What happened to the disbursed funds to him or her? That means he did not pay the people. We saw it in Lagos. The Lagos person is also culpable, because we saw flashes of that in Ikosi and some other places where protesters have not been paid. So if it's culpable, is it from him directly? Because also from the REC, it has to cascade down to the local government people, because the REC cannot go to all the places to pay. So this thing should be investigated, because there are some people that are not going to be paid for the February 23rd services that they rendered. So having said that, I think basically lessons must have been learned from this election, and the lessons have to be put in place by INEC so that they can form the new bill. Most of this things coming up is because the electoral bill that was supposed to be signed by the president was refused up to 4 times, and that is not helping us. So we are still using electoral bill of electoral law of 2010. I was asking someone, do you know the technological advancement that has happened in the last 9 years? It's massive.
Massive, yeah.
Today we are transferring money with USSD. We are doing all kinds of transactions. We are doing e-commerce in Nigeria. 9 years ago, they were not there.
You can afford to stay in the comfort of your home and do everything.
Everything, including in voting. But now we refuse to put it in voting. Why? Somebody was saying it's hacking. I said the entire architecture of Nigerian financial system is on IT. It's IT driven. From insurance to the banking sector to the Nigerian stock market.
I agree.
It's banking driven. It's IT driven.
driven.
So is it election that comes once in a while that we cannot drive by IT? So some people are benefiting from this warp system. And that is why we are seeing violence in places like Rivers. Because if there was no collation center where some people are gathering with boxes, in fact, there are some instances where the electoral officers feel there's no transportation to even bring them. They carry the boxes on their head and the rest.
Exactly a question I asked on Election Watch, that can't we just go, if we can't go e-voting at this point, what about e-transmission, electronic transmission of results? Do you have to go from the polling unit to the ward level, to the state? Anything can happen within those processes.
Even the fingerprint technology, what happened? Why will people have multiple voting? Why will the number of accredited, declared results be more than accredited voters? So if we had automatic sorting with fingerprint technology, where we don't even need, ballot papers. I say what we need is e-voting system where you can vote from your phone. Then you can do a printout. You can save and print out what you have said. Then you can track your voting. Somebody was arguing sometime in one platform that with blockchain technology, you can actually track your vote. And we're already deploying these things in our various facets of existence. So why can't we do it with election? I mean, we are not even giving far-fetched examples like United States and the rest. Senegal here, doing election. So when you do technology-driven electoral process, what you find out is that you are not shutting down your country. You don't need to arm talks because there are no ballot boxes to carry. Then in places that don't have the 4G internet or 3G internet that will enable that. They use the simple USSD. Like we used to transfer money. USSD has start this hash. You put your what is it called? You put your PVC number, and then you can do your voting in that way. So those things can be authenticated. But now that we have all these things, you know, well, so as you said, before we go fully e-voting, let's use the staggered elections that are coming up before the 2023 election to start experimenting some things. And let's try to put these things, recommendations we are giving to INEC, let's put it in the electoral bill that will be sent. If this present legislature, national legislature as constituted can do it before they exit in June, fine. If they cannot achieve that, they should leave it for the Ninth Assembly.
That's a task ahead for them. Let's talk about the suspension of electoral process in Rivers State. INEC cited violence, the insecurity, and the fact that their ad hoc staff and those who would ensure the results are well collated are not safe. Were you surprised when the electoral process was suspended in Rivers State? This is one of the states in Nigeria that we always have this issue, recurring issue of violence.
The PDP has accused the ruling party of trying to isolate Rivers State. You know, one of the rumors that flied around when the election was postponed by 1 week was that the ruling party was trying to do staggered elections in some states, especially in 10 states. That has not been validated. But you know, in media practice, there's what we call the grapevine. And when you have grapevine, it's a valid source of news, it's rumor. And because there's always smoke where there's fire. I get the point. Yeah. So now, that also was saying that why they're trying to do isolation is to make sure that the federal might is put in those things. Now, some of these things happening, especially in Rivers State, there's a credence to those kind of, rumor. Now, when you come to Rivers State, there's nothing happening in Rivers State except that the Transport Minister, Rotimi Amechi, wants to control the person that rules Rivers State. And the governor, Wike, is saying no. Finish.
They're just two gladiators
that is what is
holding the state at the jugular.
And two of them have been involved in the politics of Rivers State from 1999. Such in that Amechi was the Speaker, Rivers State House of Assembly from 1999 to 2007. And when he contested, when he was skimmed out of things in the contest for the election in 2007, it was this wicked man that, galvanized and fought for him to reclaim his mandate. In fact, there's something circulating now in the social media, how he praised Wike to high heavens in 2007. Because Celestino Meyer was replaced by Celestino Meyer. But he has to go all the way to Supreme Court to get his mandate back. So, having seen a man who went through the justice system to reclaim your mandate is expected to follow the rules of law. But what did we see? Last week, we saw him chanting war songs. We saw him in a stadium saying that we are ready for them. We will give it to them. Chanting war songs and inciting people to go to violence. It went viral. Nobody said anything. Nobody cautioned him. And so we're expecting, when we chant war songs and incite people 4 days to an election, you should expect war. And that's what we got. But people have been asking, what is even the place of, what is the problem with the transport minister in Rivers State? His party is not on the ballot box, on the ballot paper.
Yes.
So what is his own intention? So is it just to prove for some personal ego trip or what? At the expense of his own people? At the death of his own people? So that just goes to show that the value of the life of a Rivers State citizen or indigene is not worth nothing to these people, to these political actors. And I'm surprised that the people of Rivers State are allowing themselves to be used for this kind of dastardly act. There are videos that have gone viral, how some security, in fact, there's one I saw this morning about how a policeman was escorting somebody in front, told him to move, and the next thing, he just fired a shot on his leg, and shot him on the feet. And he started, before he did that, he cocked the gun again, looked around. He didn't know that somebody was capturing him. Then the CCTV camera of the invasion of the River State Commissioner for Education. These things should not be tolerated. We are back to the dark days. We are back to the dark days.
All right. Do you think there's anything stakeholders and the federal government and other concerned Nigerians can do?
The federal government seems to be looking away because the person involved is in their cabinet. The person involved is a member of the cabinet, because you cannot tell me that somebody incited people 4 days. If I had done that, I would be picked up by the DSS.
Well, what about if concerned stakeholders in River State petition the relevant agencies to do something about it? We just can't assume, well, the federal government knows, well,
the video was viral. Okay. The federal government, in fact, the security intelligence of the federal government digs out things that are not open. That's what you call covert operation. You even go down and dig out things that are not open. Then things are in the open yeah. That you say they didn't see it. So they know all these things. Why are they not taking action? We don't know. 2 weeks ago, during the presidential election, 23 people, the police told us that more than 100 people were arrested. Were they prosecuted? We didn't see anybody in court. Where are those people? I bet you maybe they are back to where they are. So there is a kind of silence. There is a worrisome silence from the federal government on these things.
And what is the way forward in all of this with all you have stated?
Well, it is not helped by...
It's so bleak.
It's not bleak because, again, sometimes the federal government's hands may be tied too because of the political actors themselves who are there. A report came that the deputy governor of Kano State was arrested. There was no riot anyway. Things didn't happen. They will resolve it their own way. But here, down there in River State, whatever something happens, look at Oyo State too, the same thing. So I keep maintaining that there is something wrong with the way we play politics in the southern part of Nigeria. And if we don't watch it, we'll get consumed by our actions of error and omission.
When you talk about the southern part of Nigeria, the way politics is played, do you think it is the people, aside dropping the blame at the doorstep of the politicians, the people themselves have not learned from the terrible experiences of the past? For example, this Rivers situation is not the first, it's not the second, it has been ongoing. Would you say the southern people have not imbibed the electoral culture, the democratic culture, to make them rebuff these politicians even when they want to be used for their own selfish interest?
Well, the politicians are from the people.
Okay.
The politicians, the Magnus Abe, the Amechi, the Wike, the Omeyan, all of them, they are from the people. They came from the people. So they didn't fall from, they were not imported from Sudan. So if they are members of it, so that means there is a problem with the value orientation of those people.
Which goes to justify the saying that the quality of leadership cannot rise above the quality of the people.
Exactly. What's the human capacity development of the people? Then what is the sectional interest of the people? So what the politicians do is to go through that sectional line, divide them along ethnic lines and sectional lines, and then make the people align with them. And then the next thing is they start fighting each other. They arm them. There's a lot of armed race in the Niger Delta. The Goodluck Jonathan administration and Yar'Adua administration
try to mop up arms.
Did the amnesty thing, try to mop up arms. That is more than running 10 years now. So what has happened after that? So we should, the all well-meaning Southerners, even from the southwest and from the southeast, should try to speak to their people in the south, because the conflagration will touch everybody. River State with boats from the coastal area, it's not far from Lagos if you use the boat. The same thing, they're all in the coastal area, and anything that affects them, it can easily, the military can easily evade any part of the coastal state, from the Delta, from the Edo, and even into Lagos. So we should not fold our arms and think that this thing is happening in far away River State. We can see how it is cascaded into what's happening in Oyo State. Because when hoodlums take a look at what is happening in a particular place, how other people are doing it and going scot-free, they will be emboldened.
Which made me ask the question that how hard is INEC willing to go as it concerns this electoral offenders? There's really no case out there which I would say would lead to a sort of deterrent for those who would want to perpetrate election violence in future. Like, there's really no case out there.
But what will INEC do? What will INEC do? INEC is not the prosecutor. These people have been arrested by the police. Basically, it will be that INEC officials have identified them as flag. These people were disturbing us, and they reported the case, and then these people are picked. Like the INEC returning officer in Imo State in the presidential election, that announced that I'm doing this under duress. The people that appeared on that video, how many of them have been arrested? So INEC will just cry to the world. The other time, INEC official sent a text message to people that I'm being kidnapped. So it is the police that will now come in, arrest these people, then make the necessary document to prosecute these people in a law court. Then INEC can now come as a prosecuting witness and other things. Yeah. So what can INEC do? INEC can now tender evidence to the court to say, look, this is what these people did while we're conducting the electoral process. So it's not the duty of INEC to do that. Now, these things have been happening because there's this word. The ruling party is being desperate to capture. Why would you want to use the word even capture? That is war language. That you want to capture a state. So why not just, go there, campaign for with the people. If the people want you, they will elect you.
Let them have their final say.
So why is it you're already having so many states within your control? So I think this thing should stop. It is not a do or die affair. Nigerians are being killed, mostly because of an election. I predicted that this election, governorship election, will be more volatile than the presidential election because of this thing. We have identified the flashpoints even before the election. The security will know the flashpoint, but they refuse to do nothing because nothing has happened. What happened in Lagos was that the people that the threats and everything, everyone just decided to stay home. And that is why the voter turnout was low. So, because Lagos has a high level of political maturity. And so it's not a do or die. So people want to go and kill themselves, go. The other people stayed at home. But in Rivers, the mobilization for terror is so high. The stakes are so high. And there's so many people who are jobless over there. There are many people who are jobless over there. You need to go and see the army of people there. So it is a ready-made thing to do. But again, we have an army of 12 million out-of-school children in the north. But they are not being mobilized to cause violence in election. So you should know that it's a function of our attitude and our values. It is a function of that. Because over there, when somebody loses an election, they will say, well, it's the act of God. And will go his way. The next thing he can do is just to go to the courts. They don't kill themselves like that. So we should be very careful. Over here, the examples we are setting is so bad. They are so bad. In Ogun, in Oyo, in some parts of Enugu, in Akwa Ibom, in River. What is wrong with us? So we should be able to, even in Abia, there was some scam in Imo. What is happening in Imo? That the incumbent wants to install his son-in-law as governor. Is it a dynasty? Okay, even if you want to do that, he has his preference. That is his own choice. Allow me to let it be played out. Campaign on his behalf and let him see whether people can what you want to impose him. And that's what is happening. The same thing in Ogun. The incumbent wants to impose his own person, and the party said no. And then you went to another party, and the next thing is that you turned it to a theater of attrition because you want your person to be there. So, in all fairness, Nigerians have restrained themselves. But again, if we don't take these politicians to task, then they'll continue doing what they are doing.
All right, you're on to Election Watch, coming to you live from the studio of Galaxy Television. We'll take a quick break and be back. Just stay with us. Welcome back, and if you're just joining us, this is Election Watch. Now let's talk about this issue of kidnapping of ADOC staff on their way to perform their duties. We had a case in Katsina Same happened in Delta and also in Benue State. Moving on, what do you think INEC and the police and other stakeholders can begin to do to ensure that INEC ad hoc staff, which are usually made up of core members, their lives are secured when they embark on election duties?
I think what will happen from now on is that during election time, you will see a lot of youth corps refusing to be ad hoc staff for INEC because their lives were not protected. They will give you instances. And what do? In that, you cannot force them. They will refuse. So you will not see less, because even in this one, you see a lot of parents who, told their children not to participate, not to do any service to INEC. And when even some of them told their children, send us your account number, we will send you the money INEC. How much is INEC paying you?
We'll pay you.
We'll pay you. Don't stay at home. That's because they don't have faith in the system. And therefore, a young person like that, you are discouraging the person to serve fatherland because the fatherland cannot protect him or her. So it goes to say, before the issue used to be the issue of poor welfare, poor logistics for them. Now it's the issue of even life and death. So who wants his daughter, son, ward, or nephew, or whatever to just keep carelessly like that? And it happened. And now when we watched the presidential election, we found out that the pattern was that the violence was only in few states recorded. But because nothing happened to the perpetrators of those violence, it escalated.
They became further emboldened.
Yes, so we started having issues in Katsina kidnapping because the Imo man was kidnapped. Nobody said anything. Apart from in fact, the ad hoc staff were kidnapped. Then they had the boldness to kidnap the returning officer and put him under the and say he must announce this result. And there were faces in that video, and nobody has been arrested. So if a whole returning officer can be kidnapped, then who is the ad hoc staff? So these are the things that then look at what happened even a day before the election in Akwa Ibom State. And in Akwa Ibom State, what was the problem? Another ego trip. The man called Gospel Akpabio wants to capture the state. A state you were commissioner, you were a secretary to the government, you became governor for 8 years, you became a senator. And so you want to, now when you are losing your relevance, you want to now use force. And that's what is happening. And most of the cases, even the godfathers and their godsons that are fighting. This Okorocha is fighting for his son-in-law. You see what will happen if he happens to win. You will see they will fall apart. And that is what keeps happening. The same thing happened in Anambra State. Peter Obi imposed this Obiano on everybody. Now, they have chased him out of the party. The same thing all of them do. So if they don't learn, they don't learn, the curve of history don't teach them anything. So because of power blindness, they refuse to learn. So with all this, if we don't take time, we will involve ourselves in political conflagration because it is not worth it. We thought we have gone past this period. Because I remember between 1999, 2003, 2007, it was bloody. Candidates and aspirants were being assassinated. And it happened in Oyo State. What is wrong with us as a people? So if the so-called big man in quotes is not safe, is it the masses that will be safe? So if we don't nip this in the bud, then we may all just be relying on God for our protect, because that means we are turning the country to a jungle of politics.
All right, let's talk about the level of turnout for this election. It was surprising that despite the huge turnout, well, not so much during the presidential election, about 28 million people participated in that particular election. But what we had during the governorship election was very, very disappointing. What happened within 2 weeks?
What happened within 2 weeks? First, the issues of violence, electoral malpractice, and all those things were not dealt with. So people lost faith in the system. For example, we had calls in the situation rooms we monitored, calls from all over the country, saying that since these people have rigged the election the way they want, let them go. We are no more interested in voting. We had to practically beg people not to lose faith in the system. Why? Because you saw that places where violence were recorded, you declare the result in those places. How come? This thing that happened in Rivers State is what the INEC was supposed to have done in some places in the presidential election. A quarter that ballot boxes were removed and burnt and ballot papers destroyed. A result came out from that polling unit. Imo State, that you heard somebody announced to you that I am under duress announcing this. You went ahead and announced that result. Why did you not suspend it until the circumstances around that duress or kidnap was investigated and ascertained? You went ahead and announced it. Then we had where number of results that were announced were even more than the number of accredited voters. So why did INEC not synthesize its data before coming on air to announce this to us? So when people saw all those type of shenanigans, they just gave up hope and said, well, since our votes don't count anymore, let's leave it. And this is the first time in many years, in the last 5 years, Nigeria think that votes don't count. With the advent of card reader, Nigerians now believed in the electoral system and said their votes count. But with this, our politicians are always defining ways, trying to get ways to make sure that votes don't count. Because when votes count, the power belongs to the people. But when votes don't count, the power belongs to the politicians. I remember a quote that was going on for a while where they said that it is those who count the votes that matter. So what does that tell you? That whatever you do when you go to collection center, you can do the abracadabra and then go. What happened to pasting the results that happened in 2015, where results were pasted on each polling unit? Why was it not done this time around if there's no sinister motive? So there should be transparency. If there's transparency and somebody loses squarely, the person will concede. But if the person feels that he has been cheated, that even if he loses, but because the system was not transparent, the person will start protesting. And that is what we are having now. And so people feel like, okay, this is not going to work. Then we will stay back at home.
All
so
right.
It's disappointing. It's very disappointing.
All right, with the level of enthusiasm, with Nigerians urging others on social media, people were calling on their fellow Nigerians to go out and pick their PVCs. The enthusiasm was high. People wanted to participate in the election, and this happened. Moving on now, what do you think can be done to make Nigerians regain confidence and faith in the system? It is a bad thing to lose faith in the country at this point.
If action is not taken in the next 3 months, Nigerians, INEC should be ready to create extra rooms in their offices for extra voters' cards to warehouse them. Because Nigerians will even not bother about registration. Because even though before the election, everyone get your PVC was a mantra everywhere.
I had to go pick my PVC.
But when people now figure out this PVC does not even count anymore, some people will even misplace their own. Some people will not even bother. Some people will turn 18 will say, okay, those of you that have PVC, what did you achieve with this?
What did you do with it?
You guys went to vote and nothing came out of it. Now, back to your question. Our recommendations will be that, one, all those arrested, all those who perpetrated violence during the election, no matter how highly placed, should be arrested and prosecuted. By May 29th, when the handing over process is being done, we should have got some convictions. Some people should have been jailed for electoral offenses. We should get some conviction even within INEC. EFCC should take some of the INEC staff who held back monies that was supposed to be paid to ad hoc staff, who held back the money. And by the way, I'm told that most of the, from across board, we have interviewed some people, they said that they don't even know how much is budgeted for their services. They don't tell them. So EFCC should investigate what is happening in INEC. And then people who are found culpable should face the music. Then when we talk about the politicians themselves, I think politicians are above the law in this country because I mean, they pay their way through. I mean, they control all the architecture of security. So I don't know what is happening in that field. The commissioner of police, even the IG of police, who changed all the commissioners of police. I think there was a problem I noticed. The police were tamed. In these flashpoint states, you could see the River State, the police couldn't do anything. The military overran the whole place. They couldn't do anything. So the question many people were asking was the reorganization, the postings that happened just 2 weeks before the election of the commissioners of police, did it affect the effective policing during the elections? That is also something to be looked into moving forward, so that we can take a look at all these things and see the way to improve our elections. And then the ultimate is to make sure that the new electoral law contains this technology-driven, to contain e-voting and some of these technological. The technology is already there. We are not reinventing the wheel.
We just need to implement it.
We just need to implement it so that we will start by the staggered elections from next year and start implementing some of those things.
All right, and thank you, Ambrose Igboke. He's a public affairs analyst and a broadcaster. Thank you, our dear viewers at home, for joining us on Election Watch. My name is Judith Irenoa.